Happy International Coffee Day from everyone at World Coffee Research. And thank you for caring about coffee genetic diversity and the future of coffee.
In 2016, the Crop Trust, in collaboration with World Coffee Research, developed the Global Coffee Conservation Strategy. And the strategy looks at the current state of coffee genetic resources and comes up with a recommendation on how to improve the status of coffee globally.
Diversity is our toolbox for the future. The more genetic diversity we have available to us, the more problems we're able to solve. Diseases and pests that either exist today or that we may not be aware of yet as commercial threats.
So the two cultivated species of coffee are the Arabica coffee, Coffea arabica, and the Robusta coffee, which is Coffea canephora. But if we need to incorporate resilience into coffee cultivation, we need to look at other species of Coffea. There are 130 species of Coffea around globally, and a majority of them, about 60 of them, come from Madagascar. Even though they are not cultivated, they are the crop, what we call crop wild relatives of a cultivated coffee, and we need to ensure that they are protected as well.
There are already so many examples of how genetic diversity has helped us in coffee. The world's second most commonly grown species of coffee, Robusta, just 100 years ago was a wild plant, mostly growing in forests and not in common cultivation. And it was only after increasing disease pressure was really causing problems for farmers growing a different species, Arabica, which was dominant at the time, that farmers were able to turn to Robusta because it was there and it was abundant and it was conserved.
Climate change has huge implication for coffee cultivation because coffee also is cultivated in a very narrow climate envelope around the world. And due to increasing temperatures and drought conditions, coffee has become very vulnerable to climate impacts. That has also led to higher incidence of pests and diseases. We need an endowment fund of $25 million to distribute to the 4 gene banks for their routine operations to ensure that those collections are maintained at high standards and are also available for distribution for research and development.
We have another great story in coffee about the geisha variety, which is part of the Arabica species. It's a variety that was known and held in gene banks for many years, but farmers didn't particularly like growing it. It's a little bit harder to grow. It was only after the emergence of the specialty coffee industry, when consumers were interested in new and different flavors, that it was able to come into wider production and has created incredible value for farmers in Panama and all around the world.
I grew up in a family that cultivated coffee in India, and I personally also have a coffee farm in Jamaica, and firsthand I have seen the impacts of climate change almost every summer during the peak fruit set. Drought has been inevitable for the past few years, which leads to a loss of coffee fruits or the loss in quality of those coffee beans. So as a coffee farmer, I have seen the first-hand impact of climate change on coffee.
If we want to be able to keep growing coffee and drinking coffee and having its benefits in our lives, we need coffee genetic diversity to be not only in existence, but also accessible. And that's what gene banks do and what programs like the Crop Trust and many other organizations around the world do to help us safeguard that future. So happy International Coffee Day. Thank you for joining us in supporting and committing yourself to the future of coffee.